But hashtag Offthecuffpod.
Come on.
A good honest conversation never hurt anyone.
Yes.
We are back for another week of podcasting. My name's Fols Forever.
Mr. Vans.
And we've got Houdini Haich in the cut.
Every time.
He's here. We have an esteemed gentleman to the left of me. Smiley. Happy.
Good.
Yeah,
man.
We'll take good. Good.
A lot of reverb.
Like a lot of
Bare
reverb.
bass.
You know, he talks for a living and stuff.
Yeah, come on.
It's not new to him.
Not new to this.
It's not new to this. But Alex Holmes is here.
Yes.
Thanks, guys, man. Appreciate it.
Long overdue. Alex was saying before we started recording that he was upset that he wasn't here for the Dark Skin Society episode.
Oh, the DSS. Yeah.
Man, that was a bit.
Yeah, you're a fellow member, even though I can't give up membership. That's down to Buck. But you a member. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what?
I sit on the council. I sit on the chair.
Yeah. The founder of DSS is currently still living it up.
Oh, it's Giggs' birthday, man. They're enjoying America
man.
still, so nice.
You know, Drake is still trying to creep in the DSS, but you know.
Did you say Giggs was dark skin?
Oh yeah, Giggs. Yeah, he's in. Yeah.
But he acknowledged his role because when the video came out,
he was like, nah. He was like,
I was like,
he was like, how dare you? What did you say to Damson? How dare you?
It's something smooth. What's making me laugh?
You ain't Franklin now, bro.
Yeah, he's obviously he's over there, so he's doing a lot of media in it. So he's done like a podcast with Mano, a rapper called Kitchen Talk, innit? And there's always that thing whenever Americans encounter British people. Shouts out to American listeners. They do that annoying thing where like they just don't leave the conversation about the accent alone. They're just so intrigued, innit? So Mano keeps sat there, keeps saying 30 every 5 minutes. Yeah,
chill out, man.
And obviously Giggs is playing it real cool in that, yeah, but I'm like, bro, if there's anybody else,
yeah.
They tried to get onto him on the like street blogs and that for saying that the UK girls are gassed, innit?
Okay.
I think kind of like a little bit stoush, whereas like the American girls seem to be a bit more free. But one of the girls on there kind of like correcting him, like, no, it's just because of your accent. Same way if like an American guy came into the dance now and he was like a DLT and that, he's probably cleaning up. You know, then Devontae with the green eyes and that.
Devontae swing.
Yeah.
Devontae with the green eyes.
With the green eyes and that.
What was you wearing a leather waistcoat?
I may have lost a babe back in the day for Devontae, so PTSD in it.
Yeah, nah. Do you know what? And that is correct though, because when I was out there, it was the same kind of thing.
I was loving that.
And I was like, rah, they're mad polite. They were looking at us like we were timid.
Oh, okay.
It's like, y'all niggas polite. And I was like,
I was going to say, y'all niggas pussy. I was going to say that.
I mean, yeah. And, you know, they'll sprinkle a bit of ignorance. Yeah. I remember one babe telling me to speak English.
Oh, God.
It's like, sorry, I'm from England. What do you think we speak there? Yeah,
last time
man.
I was there, the amount of people were like, oh my God, there's black people in the UK, like over there. I'm
yeah.
Like, yeah, man.
Yeah. Apparently so.
I don't know what to tell you. Like,
yeah,
like, I'm not a unicorn. There's more of me. Like, it's a shame I couldn't bring everybody with me right now. But
do you know what I mean? The whole
3% the whole 3%.
Yeah,
population.
3%. Come on the plane, man. Go to the States. It's big enough for all of us.
All fit in Texas or something.
But yeah.
The ADOS community, they won't be on it, bruv. They're trying to take over our land.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson will be at the forefront.
Boy,
motherfucker.
Leave Samuel L. Jackson alone, bro. Enough is enough, bro. Enough is enough. But this is episode 291.
Yeah.
291. So shouts out to last week's guest, Sebastian Teal.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that conversation. We got a chance to kind of just talk about his journey a little bit, dreaming whilst black, and the whole host of stuff that was kind of topical last week as well. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And the funny thing is the other day I think you had reposted a story, a Dreaming Whilst Black one.
Yeah.
And it said episode 2 and I was getting gassed and I was like, yo, they did it. Then I looked at the date at the bottom, it was like 2018. So that was like
the YouTube series.
Series, yeah. So it'll be nice, man. And it'll be nice to see a lot more people speak about it, like I was saying the other week as well. But yeah, shouts to Sebastian Till, man.
And whilst we're just quickly talking about like shows and stuff, so I've seen Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
So he's got I think it's called Uprising. So it's a vivid, visceral 3-part series. It's going to be on BBC One. It examines 3 events from 1981. So New Crossfire, which killed like 13
teenagers. Yeah, that story needs to be told.
Yeah,
there's a
Black
lot of people
People's
that
Day
don't
of
know about it.
Action and the Brixton riots.
Right.
So I hope they do that justice. But yeah, that's going to be on BBC One. and it's a 3-part series. And I think was Steve McQueen involved in Small Axe?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Mixed reviews for that one.
Mixed reviews for that one. So,
but
Steve, we own you. So I hope he does it justice. And I don't think enough of us know about those stories enough. So
yeah, I mean, they need to be depicted in British television, because I think the younger generation needs to be privy to some of the things that happened. But at the same time, I know it's going to come back with some sort of backlash
trauma
when people
porn.
are like, oh yeah, you know, we don't need to see any more trauma. But it's a story. It's not like, and it's not even like from 100 years ago.
It's not
you know,
longer,
it's quite recent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How do you feel about that sentiment in regards to like the type of content that we kind of are receiving at the moment, from like trauma porn to like?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that as you were talking. I was like, well, if we're trying to build like a sort of Black British kind of cinema and sort of Black British kind of like ideas and stuff, I feel like representation of those things that Steve McQueen's putting out, it's like we're catching up. So once you get all of those quote unquote out of the way, I don't want to make it sound flippant, but once you get all of those out, they're there. Then at least we can.
Then we can get to the fun shit.
Then at least we'll put in new black, new black actors on things, new black directors, and you know what I mean, like especially with things like Dreaming While Black and Drunk Histories and all those stuff that are there and coming. We need those, but we also need to kind of like get people in and on the screens and in the space.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the stories in the recent history are traumatic, like unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's just kind of what it is. I don't.
And when Small Axe was on and they had that particular one where they were just in that house party for the entire episode.
Lovers Rock,
yeah.
That's the only one I watched.
That song played too long though. A lot of people are like, that generation like, when I was at parties, this never happened.
This is what I'm saying. My mum was like looked at my dad and she's like, that song was never on there that long.
Yeah, like they pulled it up so many times.
Yeah.
I was like, how many pull-ups can it get? And then there was the Donnies that were in the middle,
doing the skanking at the end.
some next ritual kind of.
No man,
I was thinking,
You got to call on the ancestors, bro. The white man's been stressing me out.
yeah, I hear that, but you know,
but even with that, like they had to kind of bring it. They had to bring a lot together.
Yeah,
and for that amount of time.
Yeah.
My mum was like, yeah, they would do that, but just not in the same party. Like you wouldn't see that.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like that vibe fit where they were.
Exactly, but then but I feel like that. But I've been in spaces where that has happened, but not like that. So it's just I feel like it was good to have it all represented on screen, but it felt very what's the word, like opportunistic.
Yeah, and they centered it around that particular song, so it was like, that was the only song that existed. When in actual fact,
it was big.
It was
big vibes.
It was, but you know, for 60 minutes.
Yeah, it was a lot still. So that's what I'm saying. There'll be some people that'll be like, maybe for the people that are happy that this is these three I don't know if it's episodes, shows, series, whatever going to come out, but they're going Steve again. So it's just that kind of thing. So I hope he gets it right, and whoever he's working with gets it right.
The
stories need to be told.
I mean, those things are informative at the same time, regardless of, you know, the emotions that it may bring out of you. You're informed. Like the last Small Axe episode was about
was it education? Was it?
Education. Yeah. I didn't know that. You know, they were putting young black boys from the Caribbean in, you know, schools, special schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Purposely. You know,
I think I missed the last one. I don't think that's what the last.
I saw parts of that.
Yeah, I had no idea, and you know, there was these organizations to help tackle that, and in this particular one, a lady came to one of the family's houses and was like, "Look, this is what they're trying to do to your son. Your son's not stupid. He is actually intelligent." She didn't want to hear it, but then eventually she started to look around and see what was actually happening, what they were trying to do. And I was like, this is actually nuts.
Is that where, maybe I don't know if my assumption is wrong, is that where like a lot of the supplementary Saturday education come from, because of how our young black boys are being treated in schools?
I'm not sure if that was like where it was birthed from.
I feel like the origin was more just to kind of like give them more education on cultural stuff.
Okay.
Than it was anything else.
I definitely went to one. There's definitely one in Lambeth. I went like twice, and that's the first time that I saw that Jesus was black.
Oh, and then what? You dipped out after the second one?
No, it wasn't something that it was someone that was cool. No, I know it sounds mad. No, cause I remember I only went twice, and it wasn't something like my parents were involved in. It was like someone that I was, I think, cool with from my previous Saturday school. Okay. I just went with them. You know, like you're at that age where like if you tell your mum you're going here on a Saturday, until you get back is when you get back, innit? As long as you're not back by, I'm going to school, so mum's not really.
As long as you said school.
If I'm going cinema, friends, football, she might police me because I'm going to school and it's a Saturday, and it's someone that you know I went to another Saturday school with before. I went there. Jesus had locks, bruv.
Swear down.
It's like I fell in love. So when I've gone to church on Sunday now, and our church is like used to be a Catholic, so it's like stained glass windows with the white Jesus. I couldn't sing the hymns with the same vim.
The whitest looked like John Smith.
I couldn't do it, bro.
I'm saying. Sorry.
This guy
in my RE class, there was my teacher had this. My teacher had Black Jesus in there.
Swear down.
What in your
RE class
at school?
Yeah, it's like an A4 picture, but I've got the blown up one at home, but it's like it's like Jesus, like shackled, like locks.
Okay.
Looking into I want to say the screen. It's not the screen. Looking into
the horizon.
looking to me. Looking at me.
Back of yonder.
Looking at me. It's like you know what I mean. Like I've been through this. Like I like I feel you. I got that.
But Jesus look at you like, nigga, do me justice. I went through a lot for you. Like.
Are you trying to make it to the promised land?
That was always interesting. Cause I'd never considered like I'd seen like white Jesuses. And I'd seen Black Jesuses, but then like, not until I got really, like much older, like early 20s, I really considered like, oh, okay, the racialized thing.
Yeah.
Growing up, I'd seen like, I was like, oh, it's just that's Jesus. I can identify.
What about Mexican Jesus, Jesus?
I'm finished. Don't do this.
You're not gonna go all the versions of Jesus.
Yeah. Nah, do you know what?
Representation matters, isn't it?
There was different variations of Jesus. Various different depictions. Obviously, being in this country, you just saw a white Jesus. Yeah. That's why I said John Smith, like the Donnie from Pocahontas.
Being in most of the Commonwealth, you would see white Jesus. Yeah. To be fair.
Wow.
I mean, the first time I heard of Black Jesus, it was rap. I forgot it was Nas.
Yeah.
Who would like, Black Jesus, and I was like, who? What? Who? What? There's who now?
Yeah.
Jesus died at age 33. That's 32 shots. Yeah. Something.
You know that bar doesn't make any sense, innit?
J. Cole's got. We'll get into it. J. Cole's got a bar about people dying at 33, trying to draw parallels. Pimp C, Nipsey Hussle, all that.
I hear that. We'll get into that. We'll get into the music.
I don't feel like I introduced you properly earlier. So writer, educator, speaker, podcaster. Wear quite a few hats. We're here today to speak about this book. Most importantly, time to talk.
Yeah.
Just how I know we're real ones because
you have the book.
Yeah, we purchased, you know. Kind of give our listeners a bit of a backstory into like who you are, and how we kind of got to this point where we've got this book, and we'll dive into some good chat hopefully.
Right. Okay. As you said, I'm Alex Holmes. I'm a writer, speaker, educator. I speak a lot and educate a lot around mental health, men's mental health and well-being. I'm a holistic health coach. Training as a psychotherapist, so I'm kind of I'm in that kind of space, but I'm just really interested in people and having these kind of hard conversations and really kind of like breaking through and seeing where we can go with them, because I'm always like, you know, we have to have conversations in order for us to find out the next thing. We must learn things from conversations. Like for me, I'm not a guy that really likes small chat unless I know you.
Right.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like
but a man after my own heart. I like it.
I small talk ain't my thing.
I go deep quite quickly. So it's one of them. So I'm just I host a podcast called Time to Talk, where I speak to people about all of this stuff, like about various different things, so many varying topics, mostly around mental health and stuff, and I write. I'm trying to figure out what else to say. I hate when people ask me to.
I know. I feel like you're gonna say it better than I should anyway. So you know,
it's just ultimately, I love having conversations. I like having conversations that count.
Yeah,
basically.
So when you say that, you know, you like having these hard conversations to obviously get to what's next, what is...
Depends on the conversation.
Right.
So that's why, and then the book is pretty much like a collection. So it's how men think about love, belonging, and connection. Like that all kind of came about. That's not how I pitched it.
Yeah.
But it all kind of came about in that way, because there is a conversation around men not being able to speak about those things. There's a huge loneliness factor that a lot of men have. There's this kind of being solitary, being alone rather than being in community and all that. And I started looking at kind of the masculinity question, but the book kind of looks at more emotionality, so how we kind of show up emotionally in that way. And so a lot of the conversations in there are about self-talk, or about kind of more internal stuff that I've had with other men.
Yeah.
So I just thought, you know what, I want to hear from men who've been, you know, this sounds bad, I want to hear from men who have been through it, like, you know, like who have had like, you know what I mean, like,
tell me your pain.
I like emotionally, a lot of the guy in there has been emotionally abused, and and kind of what he dealt with it and how he dealt with it and stuff, and kind of my own kind of ideas about just, you know, kind of like those destabilizing thoughts. There's times when you wake up and you're just kind of not feeling quite yourself, but then what is yourself, like trying to figure out what that is. So yeah, it's just generally that, like having these convos and just really tapping in.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, you know, you being a man of so many hats, you know, getting to this stage, like your journey must have been interesting in a way of like analyzing yourself, for starters, and then analyzing the men around you, and probably seeing such a common theme of men not being able to talk about certain things or not allowing themselves to be vulnerable, especially like there's 4 men in the room, you know, like how honest can we really get with each other in a particular capacity? That's always kind of been difficult. I find myself, like, me speaking over the last 5 years, I've been a lot more comfortable, you know, just reaching out to a friend and having a discussion, not necessarily a female friend, but a male friend, because they may be able to relate, you know. But I don't know if that's the same with you guys. But
we had a chat last Saturday.
Last
Saturday.
But it was like I kind of had to allude to something before it was to come out, rather than...
Oh, I ain't been delivered yet.
Yeah. Without Fols actually like ringing me and telling me like, yo, like, this is what's going on.
He had to coax it out of me a little bit.
You just have to kind of like, in a way, sense his energy a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
but I think that comes from, you said, if you've been going through something over the last, like, how many years, you probably can see the indicators a little bit, and like, you might have seen something in me that you've displayed before, and you're like, I know what that looks like. Let me push back. Because usually we just go, oh, what are you saying? You good? I'm good. But sometimes, you good to really go there and find out what's going on. And I know me and Haich have had certain chats as well. So like, but I think that might be what you might have just seen that in me, like, you know. And I thank you for that, because we definitely had a good reasoning, and like, I think it definitely helped my headspace in the moment. And I've been trying to figure certain things out personally since then. But whilst you're talking about just how we communicate, I think it's so page 30 and 31. So what do you mean by talking, and why? And it's who should we talk to? So I think I'll read a little bit, but this is the bit that kind of jumped out to me. So on the who should we talk to segment, one important caveat here is that we need to be discerning, of course, about who we choose to trust and talk to. So you're talking about earlier, like, it might not be a lady, could be one of your guys, whatever. It's important that we feel completely safe, listened to, and loved when we do pluck up the courage to share our stories. But not everyone has the ability to be open their hearts and listen open-heartedly and compassionately, without judgment and without wanting to provide a quick fix solution. So I won't go too far, because I don't want to. They got to buy the book. You know? But even just in that little bit, it's something that I've sometimes struggled with on either side, where like you're opening up to someone. And nigga, don't talk. I just want to vent. And on the other end, I can be that person where like, I'm trying to fucking fix everything. So someone will be like venting to me, and it's only when it's happened to me I realize that it's something that I've like done. It's probably not a good thing where like I'm trying to give them solutions and fix everything when maybe what they really just needed someone just to offload on in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, so I think those are, for, in my opinion, some of our biggest things to deal with is like, one, understanding what's stopping us talking in the first and foremost, and then figuring out how we open up and who to open up to, innit? So I don't know like where you guys are at and
I
like,
mean,
your thoughts and feelings.
I know that it's if I'm correct, it's Mental Health Week.
Yeah, it's Mental Health Week. Yeah, it's Mental Health Week. Yeah.
So I saw a stat that you posted that every 2 hours a man takes his own life. What would you say? Like we were just speaking about talking. Mm-hmm. What would you say, in your experience, are the benefits of talking?
So the point of talking and really trying to communicate those ideas is really, obviously it's communication, but it's actually trying to understand how we relate to one another, and listening as well. Like both of those things work, but unfortunately a lot of the time when it comes to men and conversations, it's like what you were saying about sometimes you want to know that you're listened to, and a lot of men, they are thinking about what they want to say next,
right,
rather than what is actually being said. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you entering into a conversation and somebody comes to you with a problem. Sometimes I over time I've learned this, and just through kind of my own kind of practice and then working in these spaces, has been looking at it and saying, all right, what do you need from me? Do you need advice, or do you need an ear? Do you need empathy, or do you need action? What do you need? And I think having those kind of conversations and really saying that, like, people then when they say I need empathy, then all you got to do is sit there and listen to what's being said. Don't, like, you know, trying to provide results, but because like a lot of men we've been conditioned to be solution based, be fix based, to kind of like really say, all right, this is a problem, it needs to be fixed. Like, can someone fix me? Can someone give me the solution to this, that, and the other? Like, all the time, it's sitting with the now and just being like, all right, this is how I'm feeling at the minute, and I just need someone to listen to me. It's hard, and a lot of like growing up, it starts from younger as well, because a lot of boys growing up, it's that space to really speak and really kind of say what you want, have that conversation, be heard. And you know, a lot of parents, you know, it's not their fault, but you know, depends on how they're conditioned and the way that they grow. It's like they don't know how to handle, or they kind of mismanage a lot of their kids' emotions in a way. And like, no one's perfect. Do you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, and it's down to how they deal with it. So if a boy is upset, typically, you know, we've all heard the stop crying, man up, like, you know, get a grip.
You're sort of like taught to be tough.
Donnie hasn't even hit puberty yet and you're telling him to man up.
There we go.
Crazy.
But that happens, and then it happens when you're a boy, and then you're, and imagine if that happens at home. Yeah. And you know, a lot of men seek permission. So if they're allowed, they will do stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, kind of in a way, like if their dad was like, you know, kind of being able to talk to them on a level and be like, you know what, I cry too, you know, it's fine, or whatever, you know what I mean? Those kind of things, or it's good for you to chat or to talk about it. But if that's not allowed, then they'll take that with them, and then they'll go to school, and then if a boy is crying or doing that stuff, they will kind of reenact that sort of thing. And so it's like that collective sort of understanding. So the talking piece is important, because it's kind of like really squashed out of us from an early age, right? And I think that we need to really get, and it's like we get older and we start to realize, like, as you just said, you know, you called me this day, you know, when we chatted, and you said you're not over the hill yet. You know, it's cool. I hear but you know what? But you know what I'm saying. But you get to a stage and you're like, right, actually, I want to talk about this and stuff. Yeah. You get to a stage where you have kids and you're like, I need to learn how to communicate with these kids. Yeah. And that's what they were saying. I was like, oh, have you ever heard this phase when guys have kids, or particularly girls, and they're like, oh yeah, his daughter softened him up, or having the child changed him, and all this different stuff. And you're just like,
did you hear that?
Did you hear that?
Our resident pappy.
You know what I'm saying? And I hear it a lot.
To some extent, yeah. Because you know, for your own child, you have to be patient for them, or with them. because I'm dealing with a little girl who, even at 5, sometimes she'll start crying, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And then she'll shrug her shoulders and say she doesn't know, and I'm like,
and you're like,
"Yeah, I can't be like, I ain't got time for this, because that's crazy. That's crazy." But I know that somewhere out there it definitely exists. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like men traditionally, like you were saying, don't know how to deal with their own emotions, and then a little person is crying for a reason that they don't know. So you're thinking, like,
it can easily be dismissed.
Be dismissed. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just sit there, even if she just wants a cuddle for 10, 15, 30, an hour.
So do you think that would be different if your child was a boy? How would that conversation, how do you think that conversation would have gone? We could never know, because
well, I'm 20 years older than my youngest brother, so there's been moments where.
How old is your youngest brother?
12.
Okay.
So he's like, he could have had some things that he was upset about, but instead of being harsh, you have to be delicate, because being harsh is not going to resolve the problem in the long run. You're just enabling a type of behavior that I'm trying to get out of me, because till this day I don't even think I've seen my dad shed a tear once.
That generation never cried. The last time they cried is when they came out the womb. Do you think my dad ever cried? These people have faced immigration troubles, Nigeria house, minimum wage. You think they got time for tears? And that's the problem.
But the thing is, I don't know. Pops could have cried in the car.
You don't know.
Could have cried in the car, but he was going to let no one in the family see that.
And there we go. And when we start talking about the suicide rates in men, when we start talking about that on a serious note, 75% of suicides are carried out by men, but men and women have typically equal amounts of mental health problems in the UK.
Right.
So where does that come from? It's like the pressures. Once you step outside of your house, are there. When you step back inside your house, are there. That's even more doubled when it's black men and Asian men stepping in and out. Like, things are just hard. Like, you have to, you have to be a particular way. I mean, I had a conversation on my podcast once with a guy called Eddie Escloud Jr., and he wrote this book about James Baldwin and his policy and his ideas for a new America.
Right.
And there was a bit in that conversation when he was just like, a lot of black men, they leave the house and they lie and they come home and tell the truth. And it's that point where they're really kind of like, they go outside, they're performing for the world. They are, I don't want to use this language, but like, yes sir, no sir, bags full sir,
right.
Trying to get through life, trying to get through all of that stuff. Then they come home and some men aren't talking. They come in, there's that quiet dad that sits in the armchair, grunts every so often. Some are abusive to the family. Some are tired. They literally come in and they're just like, I don't know if you watch Everybody Hates Chris. Julius. Every day working, he comes home, he's sleeping like. Mine was just angry all the time. I don't remember seeing him.
Super frugal as well.
Super frugal, angry. Like, that's all I remember.
The definition of voucher Van Dross.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, but like, as much as that was funny, it speaks to something. There's no time for them to come home and be like, "Oh, I'm concerned about all of this stuff. I need to be up and out, and my kids need to be conforming to what that is. Because if I'm doing what I'm doing, you guys need to be doing what you're doing." But that's such an old way of thinking, because like, they're not going to connect with you. They're just going to be that arm's length. Until you get older and you start. Like,
and I feel like growing up, I don't know about you guys, but there was that little buffer zone between myself and my dad for a long time period where
for sure,
the conversation was very much centered around like church, education, go and get me something from the car. Can you wash the car? Cutting the grass outside the house and that. Right. And what am I trying to do in my life long term and stuff. But it weren't really like, okay, cool. So a big thing for me growing up obviously was eczema, innit? Yeah. And that's something I battled for a long time.
Oh, okay.
But those hospital appointments, it's mumsy.
Right.
It's like the times I feel down, she's the one that kind of, when I stopped when I stopped wanting to take photos, she's the one that was kind of receptive to that and stuff. I didn't want to be in front of the camera like my face is fucked. I'm not enjoying none of this, I never really had that, and it's not to kick his back and stuff, innit? Like, but we just didn't have that emotional bond. I've had like some seminal chats here and there, but like there was still that barrier, and part of it might be an uncomfortability on my end, and maybe a comfortability on his end, maybe a lack of understanding. My pops' dad died when he was really young, so he's never really had that, so that's just me as an adult trying to figure things out in my head. But I've always had that little bit of what I felt like is to our detriment as well for me and him, too much space between us.
Yeah.
Have you asked him?
I spoke to him in a minute.
I don't know. I don't want to tread anywhere. I don't want to get to you.
I told you I ain't delivered.
So
you know what it is. I hope it was like off the back of like the chats I've had with Haich recently, the chats I had with my lady, the chats I had with Soul, the conversation I had with Vans on the weekend. I hope, but I'm also admittedly can be quite stubborn, and like sometimes I don't know if it's cut my nose off to spite my face or I'm comfortable living with the worst case scenario, because I think a lot of us, if you were to really be honest, we've dealt with some of those like religious, traditional pressures where like if you've been wronged by a parent, it's on you. Like, I'm not on fixing, it's not on me. And people, and even though like I might sound like I'm maybe not making sense all the way through, but like there are times when like I'm sleeping peacefully. Like that thing isn't bothering me as much as like people might think, oh, like you need to fix that because so you can be happy. How do you know he's not happy?
What are you fixing? These are like people.
So like they're definitely like I said, stuff that can be fixed. And I feel like if it was someone else and I was trying to do my typical Mr. Fix-It routine, I'd be giving them better advice. Like, you need to speak to your dad. You need to do this. But me on my end, for whatever reason, there's just something stopping that line of communication, innit? And in my dark moments, I'm like, I can live with this. It's cool, man. It is what it is, bro. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
And other times I'm like, bro, along with all the other things I feel like I might want to fix personally, professionally, spiritually, that's also possibly there as well. So it's that kind of internal battle a little bit. So
yeah, I think there's just a lot of elements, especially like as you've grown older, you look back and you start to sort of like analyze certain things. Like you were saying earlier, like, being in the household and being a boy, you're crying. What if you were raised in a household where, your parents catered to your emotional needs and stuff, but then you'd have a party and relatives will be there, and then something happens to you and you've got that uncle that's like, later, man up, like, what's going on, type of thing. It can come from like various different places, but because that's your uncle, it still holds weight. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Of course, so
this is what I'm saying. This is why communication is it's so important. Like, you need to like, and the way I look at it, obviously I don't have my own family, but being and observing the one that I'm in, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, sometimes it's good to be able to create boundaries as your family. So, mum, dad, child, or however the family structure is, you created those boundaries, so then they go off and they tell the extended family, this is how we are raising our kids, we don't want you to be able to do that. But also it's giving that child the confidence and the resilience to be able to be like, Uncle so-and-so said X, Y, Z. What's all that about? Sort of thing,
I'm definitely raising my kids to snitch.
Absolutely.
Be able to do that and be able to kind of like, and then you can have those conversations, because that comes from a place, obviously that uncle, it comes from a place.
Yeah.
That he's kind of like channeled that through, and you don't know what, like, what I'm saying? And it's super interesting, like, when I start looking at, like, when I start thinking about my family and my uncles and my dad, and obviously my aunts and my mum, grandparents too, and just kind of thinking about like how they, as an adult now, thinking about what they kind of were going through as adults. And when you're kids, all you're thinking is like, this person doesn't like me, this person's X, Y, Z. So I'm looking at it now with my nieces and nephews, and I'm thinking, how am I showing up for them? Like, what am I, what I mean? Am I telling them off too much? Am I kind of stopping them from being X, Y, So I'm like,
can you be honest with them to tell them that you're struggling? Because I think that's...
Honest with who?
Like your younger cousins and, I don't know, nieces, nephews.
How young? Oh, okay.
Like, because obviously, like an adult's not necessarily going to tell a child like, "Oh, not right now. I'm struggling. I'm going through something," and expect the child to understand. That's where the communication may be a little warped, because like, how do you find the right type of language to use for a child to understand if you're going through it? Do you put your feelings aside? Like, what is it?
I think
depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. It depends on the dynamics of who you are to the child and kind of who's involved. Like, for example, if it's you and your child's mother and something, you may have had a conversation with each other, kind of discussing about how you lot would deal with a situation like that. I.e., if you have your down moments or whatever it may be, in a situation where, let's say it's a nuclear family, I would want to put something in place where I would be speaking on behalf of, whether it be my partner or something, say explaining this is mummy's time when she's XYZ and vice versa. Do you see what I'm saying? So there'd be a language that we've now created. I'm not going to explicitly say what's happening to a child, because you won't be able to fathom like what's going on in an adult world. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time saying sometimes mum is blah blah blah. Do you get me? When she's like this, or sometimes dad is. Do you get me? And having that buffer so the child can understand, okay, this is like mummy's I don't know, butterfly time, where she just, you see what I'm saying, whatever it is,
right?
And do you get me? And that can develop at its own pace,
and it builds empathy with the child.
Yeah, because they
like, oh, so this is what happens when you're sad.
Do you get me? That's how I would like to tackle something like that if that was the situation. But if you're talking directly for yourself, I think, even actually applying the same sort of thing, just creating a language that they can understand, because like I said, giving them the explicit thing ain't really gonna translate. If you're like, oh yeah, I owe these lot X amount of bread, then she's gonna be like, what are you talking about?
More kids just trying to watch Person Figure, like, the bailiffs are coming next week. Huh?
Do you get me?
It's a lot.
Yeah, that was the times where like parents really showed me honesty, like, oh, you know, I'm heading out. If this person calls, or if the phone rings, don't answer.
But then what? I get that.
Yeah. And then they'll test you. Mums will ring the phone, and then you pick up and say, "Hello, I see." Like,
Or like, you know, bro, back in the day, where like your house phone would ring, you'd rush to answer it. Yeah, and sometimes out of excitement, I'll get up, answer the phone, and my mum's right there, and I'm like, "Hello." She's like, I'm not in.
And it's the problem when kids are too honest, they'll be like, "My mum said to tell you that she's not here." And as soon as they call from Nigeria, someone wants money. So my mum said that she's not in. She'll be in next week.
I tried to ask questions, and my mum always used to say, "Oh, I'll explain it to you when you're older."
Yeah.
But you get older and you forget.
We need to start pulling up on our parents and doubling back.
But things start to reveal themselves without even you necessarily looking for the answer.
But do you double back then and go and admit to them, and like, you know, sometimes I'm like, your mum or dad will say to you, you understand. You go back and say, you know what, that thing you said to me, you was right. Or actually, I was right. Do you ever go back and have them chats?
I definitely have been like, I remember when you told me when I was 10 that X, Y, and Z, I'm 29 now. I've seen it. And my dad would be like, okay. And then like, we have the conversation now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because at the end of the day, I feel like there's this thing like when you get older as a man or as just an adult, whatever, parents kind of like, they don't know what to do with you in a weird way.
They can't parent anymore.
It's like they're your parent, but you're not a child.
Yeah.
But you're their child, but they're a parent. But now you look at them as adults, and it's this weird thing. And I'm just like, sometimes I sometimes look at it and I think to myself, you know what? Sometimes my dad still wants to teach me things. Sometimes my mom still wants to care for me. You know what I mean? Sometimes they still want to do that. So I'm like, so I kind of bring it up and I just sit there and just listen to them, just kind of like get back into their parent, like their baba.
Do you guys feel like some our parents sometimes seems as though they've been left behind in the generation of the past? Because like as times change and we're evolving with it, we're kind of like moving at a faster rate because we're younger. So, and especially how society is now, they're not necessarily from this world, but we are. So sometimes it's like, I'm kind of schooling my parents a little bit, like in certain things. But
and then you gotta say to them, see, when you was doing ABCs with me, you wasn't as patient as I'm being with you with this iPhone. You gotta let them know,
like life lessons, or just telling them what it's actually like in your life right now, innit? So
I had a conversation with my friend's mum. I was asking her what's the most difficult part of her being a parent and what was the hardest stage. And I was obviously saying this in light of me having my daughter.
yeah.
So I was just like, because I've known her since I was born, do you know what I mean? So she's like a mum to me as well. So we was having a conversation. And she goes, you know what? And she goes, the most difficult part is now. And I'm thinking to myself, like, and she's got older kids. So her eldest is 30, 39, 39, maybe 40. Do you know what I mean? But she says the hardest part is now, because she's like, how do you be a parent to adults? Do you see what I'm saying? And I know, and that made me think about a lot of things. And it's like, you're, as much as scary as it can be having a child or dealing with a baby, there's not much they can do.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they have their, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but it's like, in comparison to dealing with a whole human who has their own values and morals that they've now built off maybe what you've taught them, what you haven't taught them, their experiences, that's a whole new aspect to deal with, as opposed to someone needing to be burped. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as I spoke with her, she was like, this is the hardest bit of it, because she doesn't know how to navigate where the lines are. I think you were speaking about boundaries earlier. It's the boundaries that she would have had then don't exist anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because bro, like, sometimes I ain't even gonna lie to you, I don't even like when my parents ask me where I'm going.
I had to kind of check myself on that too.
Yeah. But I understand why.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like,
Big Ross, man.
I don't know, maybe going to see my child, maybe. I don't, like, what do you want? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I used to be brutally honest with them. They couldn't even handle it. I'm going to see her. Yeah, I'm going to her house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going there to mash her works. Yeah, whilst you're here watching TV.
When you're sitting here doing niche, I was out making
moves.
No, I get that, but it's like it's peak when you're in the house, isn't it, with them?
Yeah.
Anybody comes knocking on the door and they're asking, where is X, Y, and Z, and they want to, and they can't tell you, or you know what I mean, all that stuff. I'm just like,
yeah, it's like
I watch too many crime shows, so I'm just like, you know what, like I would like them to know a whereabouts.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Just a whereabouts. Like, it doesn't have to be specific. I can give them the time coming back. I can do whatever, but just a whereabouts and stuff, because it's like that. But at the same time, yeah, man, respect my privacy.
Yeah.
And stuff, but because I'm always thinking to myself, if I wasn't in the house, you wouldn't ask me because you don't need to. But then it's like, I can't just be swinging in and out.
That period I wasn't living at home.
Yeah, can't be.
Was some of the best in terms of communication, because like when it was time to communicate,
you got stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and it wasn't really like, yo, where you coming from? Like, it wasn't that kind of. And I think sometimes that also hurts us when you want to communicate, because you feel like you're on the obbo all the time with your parents, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you also don't. Obviously, at the time period, you don't understand. You're not a parent, they are. There's a lot of stuff going on outside, innit? My mum used to work for like local council, so she's hearing and seeing a madness. So she's this young black boy in the community. I need to be on him 24/7. Yeah. But you're thinking, Mum, allow me, man. Like, I'm trying to live. But obviously with age and more experience, you understand kind of where they're coming from. And kind of like, just going off the back of what Haich was saying, I think for obviously us, we're absorbing a bit more information. Social media's helping and hurting us. And I hope with this probably helping us a bit more than hurting. From what you're saying, I think where the struggle sometimes come from is that sense of like, this child needs me, or providing. And when the child is now an adult and is able to do everything a normal adult does, what do I do as a parent, innit? If anything, it's now understanding that there's another stage of parenthood, which isn't like I said, it's not the most generic, like burping, feeding, roof over the head. Your child might have a mortgage, it's like starting to date and having their own kids. So it's like, what role do I play in their life now?
You know what's one thing you have to think about, or you don't have to think about what a perspective is like. Them being a child, is the shortest period of parenthood. They're going to be an adult way longer, and you're going to have to deal with them way longer as an adult than you are going to have to deal with them as a. Do you know what I mean? So that's a whole dynamic that I feel like you overlook becoming a parent or planning to have kids, because you go, I'm going to have kids, but reality, you're not having kids, you're having a human. Do you know what I'm saying?
And the human doesn't belong to you.
Exactly. So that's what you're really doing. You get me?
Yeah, and I look at it as like, they should become counsel. They should be people that you can kind of go to, because obviously your parent has been on the earth longer than you have. Yeah. Like, so you kind of would think, right, I'm struggling with this. Like, how can you I want to have a conversation with you about X. Like, and that's I feel like that's what parenting is, in a sense. But you know, again, as you said, like, you know, as your friend's mum said, you know, that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
because now it's like, now they see, you know, you grow up and you see all your parents like faults.
And you're like, oh,
they're human errors.
You're just a person as well.
Under the adult eye, this is like, I mean, for some, they're like mind blown. It's like, wow, like, you know, it's you kind of see them in a new light.
You caught your parents in like 4K with the hypocrisy and the mistakes and that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I grew up looking at my parents as like superheroes. Yes, they were top disciplinarians, but they could do everything. They could do everything. Like, you know, the people that you depend on, you rely on, you know. And I had different ways of bonding with my parents. I used to bond with my mum over wrestling and watching FBI Files on a Friday, Saturday night. Do you know what I'm saying? Just me and my mum on the couch. And I used to bond with my dad when he was painting, when he was doing his art and doing stuff, and listening to music on a Sunday, and he'll sit me down and go through his music collection and stuff. Like, there was different ways. And then it got to a certain period where like I started to be outside a lot more, so that kind of stopped. And you know, you go through this weird phase where you're just not around them. You're just not around them, and you're not talking to them. Yeah. Even when you're going through like certain moments where you want to talk to them, but because like there's that gap in your adolescence, or you're growing up into a young man. Yeah, I'm not gonna come to my pops about this. I'm not gonna come to my mum about this. Yeah, you forget, because it's like, okay, I say earlier, they've been on this planet a lot longer. Yeah. They've been a teenager. Granted, it might have been the same environment, but they've been a young person before. But you only reflect on them being having been a teenager when you become an adult. Yeah, you look back on it. When you're a teenager, they never let you know that they've been teenagers before. Yeah. They just, you know what I'm saying? We started like this. You know what I mean? So like, it's never. I've been here before. I know exactly where you're at. It's never that. It's get to your room and because like, kids, like, we identify things by what we see right in front of us. Right. So like, as we always for as long as we've remembered, my parents have been an adult. I haven't seen them being anything else but an adult. It's so mad looking at old photos of parents and just like, right, what? This is you. You had a whole life before me. Pops back old school, the partying and that in the side of the hair and that. Partying. Going through like the photo albums and seeing my dad in the flares and the afro. Yeah, you know, the hairy chest, like bare buttons down. And you did the same thing. You got to flex in it, like your family traditions. Like your old man, button down to the navel. Let them see it. But it's funny because and it's great because this book is so broad in the chapters that you have, especially when we were discussing these things. Like, it's okay to be not okay. There's strength in vulnerability. And what was another one that stood out? Let me see right here. Learning just to be. Like, these are things that, like, I guess on a surface level you'd think, rah, this is like standard, this is normal, but at the same time it's not something that we actively put into practice. No, it's not. And it like just internalizing everything, it's mad to me, but at the same time, like, life just sometimes just takes you away. As men and as people who identify as such, right, it's like there's a certain level of expectation that you have that's just had of you, like, in the world. And learning to just be is not one of them. You know what I mean? You're just kind of like, you should be out here really kind of pursuing something, driving yourself. Like, you know, if you're not doing something, you're kind of like a waste man. Or, high value men in the world of Kevin Samuels. Out here doing Kevin R. Samuels. You know what? But yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's always that, and I'm just looking at it and thinking to myself, you know what, this whole idea of what it means to be a man, the ideas that we have about it, like, while some of them are valid, and like a lot of it is just kind of, it's so restrictive. Okay, so whilst we're here then, what does masculinity mean to you? Means to me, or what does it mean? Because I'm looking at it, I've always looked at it as a spectrum.
there's a long spectrum of masculinity, and the kind of idea and the kind of framework that we're living in is like this much of it. Like there's that, you know, the driven, the heterosexual, the kind of like you've got to be super physically strong, and you got to do all of this. You can't be emotional, you can't be anything. That's all kind of stuck in that little box there.
Gotta be Hercules.
You gotta be the hero. Like even like I think one of my friends was saying that the days that when he was looking at a lot of the movies from the 80s and stuff, it was a lot about the hypermasculine man who was
the
like
jock at high school,
the jock, or like a lot of Bruce Willis films and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, all those guys. It was just
blowing
kind of,
things
you
up,
know what I mean,
getting
like,
a woman at the end,
did it Beverly Hills, all them kind of things out there, action, guns, this is what I'm doing, got the girl, got the case, got the thing, got the, and I'm just like, and that's kind of formed the idea as to kind of what it goes, and we see a lot of it through popular culture and stuff, but we have this small percentage of like masculinity here that we kind of confined in. That's why I say it's rigid and it's kind of constricted.
Okay. Right.
But then when we open it up to the emotional, to the people that kind of like, who like to be creative, who like to kind of the other things, and I just think that when we look at masculinity itself, we have to look at it as I don't want to get too kind of like spiritual on this, but you know, like the yin yang sign, like you got one side and you got femininity the other side, and they work together, right? Like the way nature works is masculine and feminine together. Rivers, feminine. The river banks, masculine. Like they need to work together in order for there to be some sort of direction and kind of like for things to work. And when you start to do, one is better than the other, one is stronger than the other, one is, you know, kind of discounting the other thing, we start to lose parts of ourselves, especially when, as humans, if we're shutting away anything that isn't confined to that little box of masculinity, we're kind of shutting away a whole half of ourselves. Right. Conversations, and the things that move, and those kind of like creativity, arts, music, like the song that we played earlier, like all those kind of things, like you get yourself into like energy changes. Yeah. And that's feminine energy, and that kind of like brings and that invites certain ideas and certain conversations, and we've seen that through history. When they work together, it worked well. But what we're doing now is we're kind of really focusing on this. We're giving a particular kind of man the power, and really kind of focusing in on that. And what it's doing is it's upsetting the kind of like the way that we all navigate in the world. Because now we get to a point, you get to a certain age as a man, and you're just like, what is it all for? Like, I'm doing all of this, and as we go back to the stats with the suicide rates and the stress counts and the kind of disconnection with self and the loneliness and all of that stuff and anxiety and all of that, and then we have kids, and then we pass the exact same things on,
generational trauma and stuff,
you know, and it just becomes this cycle. So my whole idea is to disrupt it. Yeah. And now you can just be like, you know, put a foot in it and just like, wait a second, everything's moving way too quickly, and start to really open up those conversations and have conversations with so many different types of men, because that's the one thing we have in common. Yeah. We are all men, and we're all kind of under this like idea, this patriarchy, but we all kind of come at it from very different ways. Yeah. And why aren't we having those conversations with each other to then kind of move forward in that? Become better fathers, become better friends, colleagues, sons. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we need to be having those convos, and expanding out what masculinity means. Yeah. And then we can start to really kind of see things shift and see things change and really grow in that. But I always cover this at the end. I'm just like, you know what? That's very ideal, but it's the thing that I kind of have, and it's the thing that drives me. Yeah. Because I'm just like, that's something I want to see happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely work to do, and like you're doing it, you know. Is there like a specific age group that you target?
Well, mine, right, in particular, because that's the kind of the age that you're around, innit? Yeah. At the time, I like working with young people. Young people are funny. Like, children are hilarious. Yeah, they're great. The older generation, they're obviously hard to deal with. There's some people who are kind of open to that conversation, and as they grow, they get it slower, but they get it, and they kind of move. So I don't know whether there's one that I specifically deal with, but I just feel like I love being in a room where there's like multiple generations,
right?
Because I think this time last year when and all the stuff was happening in America, still is, but all the stuff happening in America with George Floyd, and there was riots of Black Lives Matter, and there was that one video of those three men from three different generations standing on the corner, and he was like, I don't want you to have to come back to this. And you could see was it 3 or 4? I can't remember if there's 3 or 4 generations, but you could see the difference in each of them.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in your 30s, you're kind of like, what it is, and you know what you don't want it to come back to. So you're kind of in the middle. In the 20s, they're idealistic. It's like this kind of like, like you're angry and this, but in your 50s, 60s, you've seen it all, and you kind of like apathetic at this point.
Yeah.
You're emotional. And when you're like 15, you don't know. You're just like
vibes.
You're literally just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love seeing all of that in one room, in a space, because then you learn. And this is why, and there's so much that a 60-year-old can learn from a 17-year-old, because as you said about the 17-year-old is in the world as it is, and the older person is not. But it's like when you start having this hierarchy of stuff, and they can't learn from each other. Yeah. Then where do we go from here? Like, how do we keep ourselves young? How do we keep ourselves wise? How do we do that if we're not talking to one another? If we're not if it's this whole, you can't talk to me because I'm your elder. Like, you have respect. Yeah. We have respect for everybody. Like, that's just a standard thing. Yeah. Yeah. But don't be like, you can't chat to me about stuff. Every 17-year-old person can't chat to somebody who's older about sex, and you're just thinking, well, how did I get here? How did they get here? All this stuff. And why are you afraid? You know what I mean? Like, all of that stuff. So
there was a lot of things that, like, I think a lot of us were probably afraid to speak about because of the reaction that we may get. It's like, all our experiences are different, but it can equally be as similar. Like, I've never had a discussion about sex with my parents. I mean, they know that.
I said they know I've done it at least once.
At least
once. I have evidence.
But it was just like,
hey, just a second, we just make sure we're good on there, 'cause I don't know what that.
I was double check. I think we're
cool.
Good.
Yeah, I think we are good.
I just wanted to make sure, because this would be the after all this nice good chat and that.
I think that was just the Apple pop up.
Cool.
But what was I saying? Not speaking about sex because I was afraid of the reaction. Like, you shouldn't be talking about this, especially being in an African household. I wasn't even allowed another girl. I wasn't even allowed. Girls in the house
to look. You're not allowed to look.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because bro. Like, there was one time I snuck in a babes, and my mum knew.
The creek, innit? Dawson's Creek.
Like,
you're trouble.
Mummy's Creek.
She looked like, I was like, oh shit, mom's coming. Hide behind the door. My mum knew exactly where to go.
Behind the door.
The heat map. It's like my mum had a heat map.
Did you drag her out? What did you do?
Nah. She was respectful to the girl. It's just, to me, I got that look.
Okay, so it's like, we'll have this chat later.
Deal with the matter, as in escort the young lady out. Yeah. And we're gonna have words. So, like, I was never compelled or like never confident to have that discussion.
Of course, yeah.
There's a lot of shame around it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame around just sex in general.
So, like, now when I see like the older generation being open to learning new things, I'm like, rah, you're a unicorn. Because there's not many like you lot. Yeah. Because they're stuck in their ways. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, I feel like maybe our generation is gonna get to a point where we would be more open.
I hope. I feel like, obviously, social media, said earlier, helping and hurting us. But if a lot of us were to be a bit more brutally honest, there are a lot of toxic traits that are in us. That are probably going to stay with us more than we like to admit.
Okay.
Let's ask Alex.
Hello.
Go on.
I was like,
hi. You've got this book, it's
like,
great, yeah.
All right.
But everyone has a toxic trait.
A toxic trait.
What's your toxic trait?
Let's say, what is your toxic trait?
define toxic trait.
There's gotta be one.
Vans, when you ask a man a question and he answers with a question,
No, define it. No, that was not a
Guilty.
question. That was not a question. I said define toxic trait. What do you mean?
Just type into Google toxic trait.
By definition,
toxic masculinity. You're talking about like parts of that.
Yeah, like if you were to tap into that, it doesn't necessarily have to be masculine.
That's a buzzword there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, what's a toxic trait? Boy,
Looks like you got a whole list.
I'm just trying to. I'm. Cause in my mind, when I'm thinking of toxic traits, I'm thinking of negative.
Being trash.
Negative things about me. Does that make any sense? So I'm thinking,
right,
so what does that mean? Like,
all right, let me kickstart then. Yeah.
You go first.
I love the way you're scrolling in your head. Which one?
Yeah.
Last week.
Going through various different tabs in my head, you know.
Yeah. Toxic trait.
Let's say if I go out my way to link up with you or something, yeah, and you kind of blow me off.
Right.
Wait.
Whoa.
We're adults. We're adults. We're adults.
This is a toxic.
But you know why? I was gonna let it lie, yeah, but it was him. The immaturity, yeah.
It creeps out sometimes.
No, it made me laugh, yeah. I saw Foles do his best to be composed. Yeah. He sat there. He's like, I'm not gonna do this.
I told you earlier, I'm not delivered, innit?
I hit you up and I'm like, yo, like, let me come check you, and you fob me off, yeah.
Right.
Cool. I'm not gonna suggest it again until you invite me back.
Oh,
okay, that's fair. So, can you see what we got there in the end?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you mess up your words sometimes, innit?
So I hold grudges.
That is very toxic.
Petty what?
That is toxic.
Like I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I'm so like
that laugh, right? That's a toxic laugh.
Yeah,
toxic. You know what? A part of me is like, right, you know, I forgive quite quickly, and I forgive but then I'm also at times I look at stuff and I'm just like,
you raggedy.
I'm like, how are you gonna sit there and like, you know what I mean? Or somebody's betrayed you or kind of done all that stuff, like things like that.
Yeah.
I don't like people messing about in that kind of situation,
right.
For example. But like, I'm doing the work, so I will address those things. I'm learning more so to address those things because I understand that where that comes from. It comes from a place of like just kind of interactions at home and things like that, where you start to withdraw and kind of hold it against somebody without actually addressing the reasons there. So I'm getting better at doing that. So when that stuff kind of clicks into my mind and I'm in that dark space and I'm just like, you know, they said this about me. They were doing this, they were doing that. They were doing that. And I just had to sit back and be like, all right, that's nothing to, like, sometimes that's nothing to do with me. Like, whatever happens. I got to try really hard to take myself out of that kind of toxic space. Holding something against people, like really trying to, I have to take myself out of that sometimes. And I have to do the work. But at the same time, I feel like
you're human.
And also sometimes it's a bit of
but that's poor communication.
It is,
but do you know what? I'm like, if I'm one of the most forgiving people that I know, yeah. But
everyone always says
that. But sometimes fuck that.
No. I put the burner down, bro.
That's the thing. Like I've been like, you know, some people don't like, oh, but let's meet up. I'm gonna get ready to go, and not gonna do it, or they just leave it to the nth minute, or the last minute, or whatever. And I'm just like, you know, I'm not gonna bring it up again because, you know, I'm gonna punish them for doing this. And I'm just like, you know what, it's cool, it is fine, whatever. Like, let's check in at another time and figure it out.
Sometimes it's not fine though. It's like
sometimes it's not, but you got to deal with why it's not.
Yeah, because the maybe there was that time that you felt like someone played with you and you didn't like how you felt. So you're like, I don't want to feel like this ever again.
They're
so
taking the piss.
I'm gonna.
But
sometimes you have to check people. It's not all. Even what you said earlier about someone fobbing you off and that. If it's something that's been happening, it's obviously bothering you, innit? So it's like,
then you address it.
So, and honestly, the good communication would be to address it, and hopefully that's fixed. But also, it's like, cool, I've marked it down. Doesn't mean that it's consuming you.
Yeah,
you can tell that person then
is not like
not addressing it.
Not necessarily like, because it might not be a fob off. It could just be like,
so it's just your ego, your insecurity,
like, I'm busy, like not today, or I'm tired.
Bad organization.
Yeah,
didn't
something
didn't
like
prioritize
that, yeah.
the.
But I'm like,
the
I'm not
all
gonna
that
reach
stuff.
out until you reach out again. Like until
Yeah,
you
sometimes-
holler at me.
But that sounds like a dating scenario, like, you know, like sometimes.
Nah,
like,
it could be you, bro. I could be like,
don't bring me into this. I didn't do nothing.
No, I'm just saying. It could be a situation.
Yo,
where
officer,
I'm like,
I'm innocent.
It could be like, yo, what you saying? Like, I'm gonna pull up, and you're like, next time I come, you better invite me, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
or provide an alternative. At least.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't be, tomorrow or
Let's rearrange.
or something. If you just leave it and it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, but I've had to deal with that quite a bit and really figure out, like, sometimes it's not always about me, but like
Ego, insecurity.
Yeah. And, you know, like,
big
we're all trying to get better.
big
handling
insecurities.
certain things.
Big insecurities. It speaks to a lot of stuff. But yeah, man, like toxic traits. I'm just trying to think through, like, 'cause when I think back, I think to like being a teenager. I think back to those things.
Wait,
like,
so you're trying to say
no,
that you haven't been?
I kind of use it. I can't even explain it. It's like when I think back to kind of like doing holding grudges and holding all that stuff. Obviously, as recent as it could have been a year, I also kind of put myself in the place of me as a teen.
Yeah,
like I kind of bring myself back there, and it's and it's really weird how that works. It's like you're kind of digging out that younger part of you, who cannot deal with or handle that kind of rejection, abandonment, or that kind of disappointment, or that different stuff, and it just shows up in your adult self, and you're just trying to like, and you're trying to be all adult, but you're just being a big child, I guess.
Yeah.
If you can't,
you break it, it sounds mad funny, but it's actually really peak.
You're a big child who's just tantruming.
And I speak, and obviously, like, we're having this honest conversation about, you know, how we move and certain things, like, and, you know, me explaining how I try to handle, like, you know, my younger siblings' emotions and stuff. Like, when my brother came to me the other day having his first fight at school, I was like, did you beat that boy's ass? Like, I wanted to know, like, because
fine.
But what if he said no?
Go back again tomorrow.
Go back again. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still trying to.
This is what I'm saying.
I'm still trying to, you know. But like he said, the boy hit me, so I hit him back twice, and I was like, "You damn right you did."
My mum's in the back saying, "Every team now, double."
This is why I'm like, because I keep having these things. Sometimes I look at it and I think, am I doing this wrong? But sometimes I always look at the why, innit?
Yeah.
I'm like, why did he hit you?
Yeah.
Because remember, boys are conditioned to lie, you know, in a way, because they could really be like, they could have, you know.
Are you calling Vans little brother?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm speaking objectively.
I'm
speaking objectively, taking it up in there. But sometimes it's like, what was said, what was done, how did this build up? Like, sort of, like it doesn't just come out of the blue.
No, I'm with you. You want to find out. You want to know what happened.
And that's why I'm
as an adult, you do.
And that's why I'm always like questioning that, because I would always be like, so why did he hit you? I understand why you hit him. Yeah, because he hit you. So that's a direct understanding.
But how did this whole thing start?
How did that start?
And I know you could get mad different versions.
You never know. He could have been heckling from the crowd, and then he was the one that just got.
Listen, I hear him heckling all the time.
There we go, and that's why I'm like,
does that justify someone putting their hands on you though?
No, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. So
then it doesn't.
Because I can ask another why, and we go, and it's like, because I don't know.
Then you get to the
I'm
point.
getting flashbacks of when I had a fight and I got suspended, and like my parents just like, why are you fighting? I'm like, do you not even know what happened? They're asking me like, why am I fighting? This nigga tried to fight me, so I fought back. It's sometimes it's literally that simple. I understand what you're saying, but like even within that, it's also, even in that communication, you also don't want to. I could look at that possibly just of like my past experience of that maybe coming across as bad communication also a little bit as well, where it's like my first point of call, toxic or not, I'll own it, is cool. You hit him back. Did you win? Cool. Let's deal with that first, and then we can.
Did you win?
Yeah, because I need to know.
Victory.
yeah, victory lap, baby.
No, but do you know what? Do you know why though? Yeah, I think that all stems from your own personal experiences. That like, rough him up and he'll leave you alone, innit? You'll get left alone. But then when you're not asking the questions that you're talking about, it will then just create a cycle of right, every issue that you have, you're just beating up dons.
Yeah.
And that's not the way to go.
You're not going to win every fight.
And you're not going to win every fight.
And this is what I'm saying. So when you're asking questions, did you win? And they didn't, and they got to school because they want to fight them now and win. It becomes this thing. Like, I don't know. I'm all about trying to think like, all right, how can this not become? I want you to know how to defend yourself. I do want that for you.
Yeah,
and I need that to happen because life, as a black man, as a man outside, you need to learn to defend yourself. You need to know that, but within reason, there needs to be a sort of.
Of course, I'm with the defenders. I think it's just a rite of passage of adolescence. I went to all boys' schools, so for me, it's like that was just.
So there's a lot of kind of.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
Some stuff. Sometimes we were just fighting for the sake of fighting. You could be coursing, playing, and before you know it, you course the wrong don, and now you lot are scrapping. It literally sometimes just that simple, isn't it?
If I could go back to school and just watch it, I feel like it's just like everybody thought they were grown, everyone's fighting, and you people.
Listen, man.
Stop. And it's nothing better than when you get to like year 9 and. Like you realise the people that was bad in year 7 was never really
just
bad.
Like, where are you?
And you see the slump. Someone slumps and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
The slave Goliath.
Sometimes.
School days are hilarious.
I do want to. Man. I really wish I could like go back and just watch it. I feel like it'll be jokes.
Being a fly on the wall at a secondary school now. It's mad.
The stuff we thought was serious, like.
Oh yeah, and it's saying like Jesus is the end of the world and that. And then you get to uni and there's a don. It's like, in uni with you got no GCSEs. You're both on the same level.
You know what? Yeah, certain teachers need to read this book because they used to threaten us like with that whole. If you don't, succeed in your GCSE. Oh, obviously they want you to succeed. Yeah, because it will go well on their rap sheet. It will go great for the Ofsted report, but
it's good for the prospectus.
Yes,
for the next thing.
But at the same time, it's like, you're making me shit bricks, saying, you fail your GCSEs, that's it. And I'm like,
you should be fear mongering like students. You should be inspiring them, really.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not a teacher, innit? I ain't got the patience for that.
They are part of an institution.
Yeah.
So you have to remember.
Yeah.
They have quotas and data and things that need to reach as well, like anything. But they are meant to be inspiring the next generation.
And you think I'm gonna mess up these stats? You better revise, bro. It's like the core. Everybody's got pressures and stresses that makes them communicate how they communicate, innit?
I never forget one time when my head teacher sat down. Like this is like once I'd left school and come back after uni to kind of like check in.
You did that?
I did that. I went back and I was just to kind of see what was going on and if they needed any workshops and stuff. And I was like. And he was just basically telling me like each student is worth a particular amount of money, and and that was
sounds like the transfer market.
And that was it. So they thought they allow. Obviously, that's why they allow a certain amount of kids in because they have to reach that quota.
Okay.
And then they get a certain amount of money for the school to continue going, depending on whether it's in trust or academy or
question.
So I found that interesting. I was
would it be broken down into things like race and gender, or is it genuinely just student? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure whether it be race and gender, but obviously they would look at the stats and kind of see who gets the best grades and try to figure that out. And that's when I think like school becomes a bit too systemic. Like, you know what I mean? Like you kind of start to push people in and out of particular classes. And then I remember when I got to year 9, my year group was very black. Got to year 9 when it mattered to GCSEs. A-level, like everyone's kind of like pushed out. Half the guys were expelled, suspended, and
because they want to maintain.
Bro, my school,
they got sats, isn't it? So
kind of. My school was like year 10 when they really started to kind of like enforce and So year 10 I remember vividly because coming towards mock exams, your mock GCSEs, they were trying to tackle a problem at the school. It's obviously like there was a lot of men that were underachieving, obviously violence and stuff like that.
The gang thing started at your school at that point.
Well, yeah, like they had to install cameras in every classroom.
Crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it was nuts. So then there was like this big assembly once, and they were like, we're we want you guys to succeed, so we're plucking out all the troublemakers, So they started like they had a few teachers at the front, and they started picking out like individuals. I happened to be one of them. They they put us in a room called the transit room. Yeah.
The transit room.
Yeah. So we were there. It was mad.
You know, it was in a holding cell. I can't.
This is some get out business.
Yeah, it was mad. It was mad. It was
Oh
mad.
my
It was mad. So we were in this room for a week.
Did it feed you or?
Yeah, we would go to lunch and blah blah blah. What are you talking about?
Dash the tray under the thing. Eating your animals.
We were in one big classroom, and that classroom
So bad.
was ran by the head teacher. I'd never seen anything like this before. The head teacher is usually in his office.
He minds his business. Or her
Minds his business. Like he lets all the other dons do everything for him. The runners, innit?
Yeah.
So he's fronting the class for the entire week. So
You were in there, you.
fam. Anyway,
Some bad breed.
not even, man. I was a good Jew still. He made us write a letter. Yeah.
To who?
Just a letter, just to say, or just to justify why we should be kept in the school.
What?
Because apparently we were too disruptive. You know, we weren't allowing others to really
Reach
fulfill
their potential and that.
their potential. And I'm thinking, well, what about us? So anyways, I was always like a decent writer. So I wrote like this heartfelt letter thinking that
Penmanship.
it was just going to be for like the Donny's fulfillment. Man sent it to the house.
Oh, he got you still.
Everyone's letter got sent to the house for the parents to open up and read. So basically he'll type out a letter and then he'll attach our letter with his letter, basically, right? And I was like, looking back, I'm thinking, right, that is like
That's set up.
He spun you lot still.
mad cruelty. But lucky for me, my sister was at home because, she was at home. She had an accident, so she couldn't go to school. So she picked up the letter. She saw the crest of like my school badge on the letter. So she was like, oh, okay. It's about me. So she opened it, she read it, and then she didn't tell my parents. She just gave it to me. She was like, look, I saw this.
Pattern up.
Pattern up. And I was like, oh, you're a real G.
But then did she just start sending you shot willy-nilly like?
Nah, do you know what? Yeah, my big sister always had my back.
I love that.
That's one thing like that I could never chat shit about.
I like that.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but it like the teachers were just on a madness.
I kind of rate that tactic though still, because they probably wasn't even going to kick you out at all, but they had to do it in a way where like they scared you so much.
They weren't.
Because no matter how much people used to go on like, F school, anytime guys were in like ACE or these, like we had like the separate bit in school, and you see them having lunch separately or just not with us, isolation, yeah. They look so sad, and you realize how lucky we were having bare fun and that.
Outside in the freedom.
Bro,
it's like society,
it was like, like prison, essentially.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the hole? Do you want to go to the isolation unit?
Man, I got you in transit.
Transit room.
See, no, this is what I mean. And when I look at that, I'm just like, nah, that's cruel. That's mad cruel. Because when I was thinking, I was hoping, I knew this wasn't going to happen when you were telling the story, but I was hoping they would say things like, all right, I'm going to take like you 10 guys, I'm going to put you in, I'm going to get a mentor or something like, but what?
Something constructive.
Something constructive. But when I put you in, where I envisaged this room was like some room with no windows.
Yeah, no windows, all white.
And a whiteboard. And
a blackboard.
And it's flashing light.
Just raking his nails on the blackboard.
But the thing is that like I still till this day I don't think I was deserving of that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it was just I was.
Or did you fall into the wrong crowd?
Nah, it was just like I used to bust joke. I wasn't like sometimes I weren't listening when I was spoken to, kind of thing. You know, like, and I'm in with other dons. Yeah,
you're thinking they're worse than you.
And I'm like, rah.
My dad used to say to me, he's like, when you go, I don't know where this came from. I don't know. Sometimes I always wonder what kind of conversations my school was having with my dad, for my dad to come up with conversation with me. Sometimes, Anyway, but like he came to me and he was like, "Oh, when you're in class, you can't be, you have to be quiet. You can't be speaking because they're gonna single you out and all this and X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Why would they single me out? Like I'm I was a high performing student. Like I was like, why are they singling me out? I'm doing the work. Like, and I didn't realize until like I was helping my friend with like his history stuff or something like that, and I was helping him because he couldn't understand the question. So I was kind of like saying, this is the thing. This is kind of where you need to be looking in the textbook. I'd done it, and I was doing it, and like the way the teacher went off on me, and my dad always said like, your voice is deep, it's gonna be basic, they're gonna hear you first, and like rather than anyway else, they're gonna single you out.
That was basic from
and
early,
you're just like you're trying to, your parents are speaking, you're not in the school, you don't know. It's that whole thing what we said about they were once teenagers once, but they're not saying that, so you don't know. And then like, so when the teachers are kind of like shouting at all the black guys who seem to be at the back of the class, even the ones that are doing their work, then that kind of stereotyping, that kind of stuff, it's like you have to go outside and you're policing yourself already. You get to school and you're being conditioned into how you're going to be at work. When you're at work now, you can't be too loud, you can't be too this, you can't be too that. You have to
control your presence, essentially.
When you're in the canteen at work, there's 4 black people, all of you standing opposite corners. It's the truth, bro.
Yeah, nah, man. Good times, man. And like, you had that teacher that always believed in you, like, because they knew.
I actually met up with one of mine the other day.
That's dope.
And it was funny.
Were they black?
No, Asian.
Okay.
Person of colour.
Indian. Yeah, and it was actually good because it was like, when he started teaching us, he was 24.
Okay.
So he's what, like, well, he's like 30. He's like 30.
His late 30s, let's say. Mid 30s.
But when we were in school, that person would seem mad old to us at the time.
Yeah, so and obviously when he's teaching me at GCSE level when he first came, and I was like, what, 16, 15?
15, 16, yeah. So a person not far removed from you, really.
Yeah.
So now we're talking as people, as adults, but there's so much kind of like to catch up on, like, and the things, and kind of understanding that. You just have this idea of these teachers, and I started thinking back. I've got friends who are teachers now who are newly qualified or been teaching for like a few years now, and I'm just like, when we were in school, were these teachers like new, like 24, like 25, and we were like what, 15? Obviously they're 10 years old or 12 or whatever, but they were young. Unless they were clearly old, the ones that have been there for a long time. But
one of the instrumental teachers in my school, he was like old, like, but he was like so important. Do you know what I'm saying? So like when I was in that class, in that room, he was like,
"What are you doing in there?
What are you doing in there?" But I was like, "Yeah, help me then." He was like, "It's out of my hands now."
And they threw me till they threw me.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's a difficult one, man. Like dealing with school and teachers, just trying to navigate, like, and it's like you don't want to take L's, but there's an element of you that doesn't care at the same time, but then you do want to succeed as well
at school. I do think that at school, like, it can't just be teachers who are responsible for everything, because they literally got to teach you,
and teachers have to absorb everything that we kind of like. It's got
to be a community thing. So school governors, the teachers themselves, the parents.
There needs to be counselors in schools. There needs to be like mentors. There needs to be those schemes. Like, the idea needs to be to keep as many kids in school for as long as possible. But but the resources aren't there. The things are kind of strapped. A lot of schools are becoming privatized now, and it's all results led.
What's his name? Lord Harris. I see bare schools turning into Harris Academies, and I just something's up, bro.
Oh, is that?
Is
that him?
I didn't even tie those together.
So like, there's time to what you're saying about like money and stuff. It's not. I'm suspicious. Put it that way, innit?
Yeah.
About all these schools becoming academies and the direction they're going in. So But I'm really happy you came on today and we got a chance to talk about. So Time to Talk: How Men Think About Love, Belonging, and Connection, written by Alex Holmes. You said you're training at the minute to become a psychotherapist. How's that going?
It's good. It's going well.
Yeah.
You learn a hell of a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with it too. But yeah, no, it's as somebody who studied languages and then was a journalist, and now I'm here, it's actually very mad to kind of think, like, if I was to look 10 years back when I still started uni, I would never have thought I'll be doing this.
You're taking the stairs rather than the lift.
Boy,
That's how some people
stairs.
yeah.
Yes, it's been a long journey. But yeah, man, like it's been super interesting and it is interesting, and I like having these conversations and chatting because obviously I learn so much.
Yeah.
How long till you're qualified and stuff?
4 years.
Okay. Yeah, definitely the stairs still.
It's definitely a stairs
It takes a
team.
while because there's so much that goes into it. So,
Yeah.
But we need more of us in those spaces, innit? You know. So I'm really proud of you. We all know each other offline and stuff. And it's been a shame we haven't had the chance to have the nice cocktails and chill out when we at our mutual's house and that and go and vibe and that. That's when we usually bump into each other during the summer and that. You know.
Yeah.
So,
No, but this is amazing, man. Proud of you for this,
Thank you, man.
achieving this.
Appreciate it.
Available on Amazon.
Amazon, anywhere.
Yeah, paperback.
I said, Google me.
Google me.
Google
me. $10.99 paperback. Amazon Kindle.
Amazon, Kindle, Audible. Everywhere. It's out there.
Question: how long did it take you to write that?
9 months.
Okay.
That's relatively quick.
I know it was a huge turnaround, but
Was that your first book you've written?
Yeah.
It's like an artist, man. Their first album, their life is into this one book, or their life up until this point. You know, because like you may have just had loads of ideas, but you were just waiting for that opportunity to create a book.
Yeah, so many other ideas as well, but like it's just
First of many. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Time to talk. Go and get that. We'll obviously post the links on our podcast episode description.
Are we doing do we get the books and stuff?
I think your publicist is going to send us 2 copies to send to do a giveaway to our lovely listeners. So cufflinks, the RNA community. You know, we'll do something for you.
Yeah, we definitely want to spread that good gospel.